You ever had that happen? Where a friend just vanishes? One day you're having a great chat, and the next it's just radio silence. It's a feeling that so many of us have been through, and man, is it confusing. Well, today we are going to try and decode those silent signals. We're diving into 10 hidden reasons why people might suddenly go quiet, and I'm willing to bet it's probably not for the reason you're thinking.
Right? That's the big question, isn't it? That sudden silence, it can totally send you down a rabbit hole of self-doubt, making you replay every single interaction. Because let's be real, when there's no explanation, our brains just try to fill in the blanks. And that not knowing, that lack of closure, is often the absolute hardest part.
And this just nails that feeling perfectly. You basically become a detective, scrolling through old messages, looking for that one clue you missed, a clue that probably isn't even there. It's a really tough spot to be in, but, understanding the why behind it all can bring a ton of peace of mind.
So to get to the bottom of this, we're going to break it down into 4 main parts. First, we'll look at the internal struggles they might be dealing with. Then we'll zoom in on the friendship itself. After that, we'll talk about the communication gaps that are so common today. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by reframing what that silence might actually mean.
Okay, let's kick things off with a huge idea, and I really want you to hear this one. Sometimes their silence has absolutely nothing to do with you, like zero. It's just a reflection of what's going on in their own head, maybe a private battle you have no idea about.
So in this section, we're going to explore 4 of those personal challenges. We're talking emotional burnout, big identity shifts, those massive life transitions, and of course, the quiet struggles with mental health.
First up is emotional burnout. I mean, just imagine hitting a social wall, like full stop. There is just no energy left in the tank for catching up or checking in. It's not personal at all. It's a complete and total lack of capacity to interact. Oh, this battery analogy is perfect. Their social battery isn't just low, it is completely dead. So when they pull back, it's not a rejection of you, it's a defense mechanism. It's them trying to find a corner to recharge because the idea of just peopling feels impossible. All right, next up, identity shifts. People change. We all do. They might be going through this period of intense personal growth, and they're starting to feel like they've outgrown the person they used to be. And if your friendship was really tied to who they were, they might just quietly step back as they figure out who they're becoming.
And it's kind of similar with major life transitions. These can totally hijack a person's time and energy. Think about it. A new job, moving to a new city, a family emergency. These things take up all their focus. And friendships don't always end with a big fight. Sometimes they just become the casualties of a life that's just in chaos.
And of course, we absolutely have to talk about mental health. For someone who's dealing with something like depression or anxiety, the simple act of replying to a text can feel like climbing Mount Everest. Their withdrawal is often a symptom of what they're going through, and it's a retreat from a world that just feels way too loud and overwhelming. But look, it's not always just about what's going on inside their head. Sometimes the silence is actually coming from the friendship itself. The whole dynamic between you two has changed, even if nobody's actually said anything out loud. In this part, we'll look at 4 signs that a connection is fading. That sudden shift in energy you can feel, unspoken boundaries that get crossed, totally mismatched expectations, and sometimes, well, it's just people growing apart. You ever felt this? You're texting or talking, and suddenly the whole vibe just plummets. The replies get shorter. The excitement is just gone. This energy shift is often the very first, very subtle clue that they're starting to pull away emotionally. And then there's this scenario, which happens all the time. Step 1, a boundary gets crossed. Maybe you said something that hit a nerve, and you didn't even realize it. Step 2, they are terrified of confrontation. And so step 3, a silent exit feels like the easiest, safest way to get away from that discomfort. Mismatched expectations can also put a massive strain on things. I mean, imagine you're looking for a deep daily connection, but they're just hoping for a casual, hang out once a month kind of friendship. The person feeling all that pressure might just vanish because the friendship is starting to feel more like a job. And sometimes there's no big drama behind it at all. It's just natural attrition. You both grow in different directions, the things you used to talk about fade away, and the conversations get harder and harder to start. Pretty soon, silence just becomes the new normal because there's not much left to say. Okay, our third section zeroes in on a really modern problem, the communication gap. In a world where we're supposedly more connected than ever, we've also become masters of avoiding the hard conversations. And we're going to wrap up with 2 big ones, our deep, deep fear of confrontation and that feeling of digital fatigue that makes it so easy to just disappear. This is so important to understand. For a lot of people, the emotional energy it would take to explain why they're upset, to have that whole awkward, stressful conversation, just feels way more exhausting than the alternative. So they choose silence instead.
And finally, there's digital fatigue. The constant pings, the dings, the pressure to be online and available 24/7, it is draining. So sometimes a person's disappearing act isn't about you at all. It's a rebellion against the digital noise. They ghost everyone just to get a moment of peace.
So, after going through all these reasons, we're left with this really powerful chance to completely reframe what their silence is all about. So here it is, the main takeaway. More often than not, someone pulling away is a silent signal about their internal state, their boundaries, or their life. It is almost never, ever a statement about your worth as a person.
And that is the thought I really want to leave you with. When you start to realize their silence is a story about them and not a final verdict on you, how does that change things? It might not take away the sting completely, but it can give you something so much better, clarity, and the freedom to move on without carrying all that blame.